All right, let's start talking about lights here in Cinema 4D. Now I'm going to come over here and I'm going to drop a floor into the scene. And I'm going to grab my figure man. Gonna middle mouse click here so that I can see this guy a little bit better. Put him on top of the floor. There we go. Now, if I come over here and render, click on the render button, render the view, you'll notice that we can see everything in here. We can see the man, we can see everything, but we don't have any lights in the scene. And that's because Cinema 4D is using something called the default light. So if you don't have any lights in the scene, the default light will be active. So the default light has an angle of 15 degrees to the camera's Z-axis. Now the important thing to remember is that as soon as a light source is created in the scene, the default light's going to become automatically disabled. So let's just do that. I'm going to come over here, I'm going to grab a light, and you'll notice that the scene goes dark. If we render it again, you can see that the light that's sitting on the floor is sort of lighting the man from below. So let's just come over here. We'll take the light and pick that up and sort of pull it in front. Now let's just start going through and taking a look at some of the parameters that we have here. So for the light, we have the basic and the coordinates just like we do with every other object in Cinema 4D. So you should be very familiar with those by now. Under the General tab, we have the color. So we can give the light a specific color we want to. You're not normally going to do that, but if you wanted to, you could. So let's just give something that's a little over the top. So you're going to get something like that. That's not very realistic, but you can do it. Let's go back to white. The intensity is going to control the overall brightness of the light. So you can take your intensity way up and brighten your scene. And you'll notice what's going on in the scene as I'm taking this up higher and higher. We're starting to burn out the scene here. Let me actually just throw a couple of materials on our floor and on our little guy here. Just create a simple material. Put that on the man. And create another one. And we'll put that on the floor. So now we're up at 226%. So you can see we're starting to get a specular highlight on the floor and on the man all over the place, actually, from the light. And you can take that up as high as you want. And you can see it just keeps getting brighter and brighter and blowing everything out. So at 1700%, it looks ridiculous. But it's available to you if you want it. Let's take that back down to 100%. Something else very cool that you can do with this light is you can actually create negative value. So you could actually darken specific areas of your scene. So let's do this. Let's create another light. And we'll pull it out over here. And on this light, the first light, we will take it to a negative value. Let's say negative 38. And when we come over here and we do a render now, you can see we're starting to get a little darkness over here. Put it way down. And see, this light is just sucking all the light from the scene out of it. That's probably way too much. See what negative 100 will do. Okay, so you can see what's happening here. This light at a negative 106 is completely darkening this part of the scene. And the only light source we're having is from the second Omni light. So that's just something to know about that you can do. Now, again, we're using an Omni light here, and an Omni light acts like a real-life light bulb, and it casts rays in all directions. So this is the way you're going to get the most even lighting in your scene, is to put an Omni light in your scene. Okay, now we have shadows. Now, the shadows are off by default, but we can turn the shadows on. We have several different shadow types. Turn this on, then we'll do a render. You can see that we have our shadow map soft being thrown down here on the floor. And if we move our light source, we can get different results. Let's go ahead and take another light and just put it in the front. Turn that to off. There we go. So now we have a light in the front and a light in the back. Easy way to see that is to go to the top view. Here's our light source in the back. And here's our light source in the front. Maybe move that over here. Take the light source that has the shadow, put it over here. Okay. Visible light defines the visibility of a light in the scene. So right now, our light is actually working in the scene, but we cannot see the light. If we turn the visibility on, then you can see we can actually see this light source. And if we click on this, we can drag that out so that the light source becomes more intense and has a further reaching fall off. Let's take that back down. We also have volumetric lighting. So basically, volumetric lighting is going to have the light interact with objects that it comes in contact with. So render this now. We don't actually see anything, but the cone of light is not penetrating far enough and the intensity is not high enough. So let's turn that up. And probably the best way to see this would be to change this from a omni-light to a spotlight and turn this over just back here. We're going to go into how these different lights work. I just want to show you what the effect of the volumetric light is. Now you can start to see how the light is interacting with the figure. Let's just bring this out a little further. Turn the intensity of the light up a bit. Now you can start to see how the light's actually working with the object, and it's casting shadows here on his arm. Whereas if we turn this to visible light, you're not going to get that. You can see the light, but it doesn't interact with any of the objects. No illumination will turn off the illumination of the light. So you can still actually see the visible light, but it's not actually illuminating the figure here. This is being illuminated by the other light that's in front. So that is some of the basics of lighting here in Cinema 4D.